Being a Rotarian is now even more rewarding. Rotary Global Rewards, our member benefit program, offers discounts you can use every day and helps Rotarians do what they do best: give back. The good you do comes back to you. Rotary Global Rewards. Find out more at rotary.org/myrotary.
Come together to do great things here in Tulsa and around the world. Thank you for joining us today. I got to tell you, this club is mind-boggling to me. We've got so much stuff going on right now. We could have a whole meeting with me talking about everything that's going on, but we've got Michael Wallis in the house, so we're gonna go with him today. So let's take a moment and say hello to those standing around. Okay, we've got a great program today, and it's chock full, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So Bill Miller is going to lead us in our invocation, Michelle Place, Song and Pledge, and then past President Ed Monette's going to introduce our visitors. Bill?
Would you pray with me, please? Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this place and for the fellowship that occurs each Wednesday in this place. We thank you for Rotary and for its missions of service above self and of diversity and inclusion. We thank you for the Rotarians who each day work to make our world a better place. We thank you for this country and its influence for good in our world. It was written long ago that you have not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Father, we pray that fear be removed from our hearts and replaced with courage. We ask and we pray that love and peace guide us in all of our relationships. Give us the courage and the power each day and every day to truly love our neighbor and our neighbor's neighbor in this city, in this country, and in this world. Amen.
Well, good afternoon. In honor of our good friend Michael Wallis being here, let's think about how beautiful America is and that great road that runs through the middle, Route 66. Will you sing America the Beautiful with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'd like to welcome everybody, especially our visitors, to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. As is our custom, I will read the host name and the visiting guest. If they would briefly stand so we can take a look at you and sit back down, we'll get through it, hold our applause till the very end. We have quite a few guests, so we're only going to introduce the important ones. Linda Bradshaw has as her guest Sherry Farmer. Cindy Salter and Liz Halls are the guests of Lynette Potter. Cara Gay Neal has brought with her Linda and Paul Kennedy. Barney James has his son Tim. Vic Bailey brought Victoria Hogue with Tulsa Tech. Catherine DeCamp brought Ken Busby with the Route 66 Alliance. Judy Wall has with her Carol Ashcraft. Joni Stevenson has Sue B. Montgomery. And Bryant Bynum has his son, Zach. Let's give them all a round of applause. We have a couple of visiting Rotarians from the Sand Springs Club. We have Brian Jackson and Dave Bouchard. And from Southside, Ben Gorell. Thank you all for being here, and come back soon.
Thank you, Bill, Michelle, and Ed. Appreciate you. And welcome visitors. Yeah, if you're looking for a place to get connected with some really good business leaders and make some friends, or just get involved in some good community service, Rotary Club of Tulsa is the place. We've got a ton of stuff going on, and we'd love to have you join us. So thank you for visiting us today. We hope you feel welcome. Now, let's please join me in recognizing today's Rotary Club sponsors: Chris McCowan with Small & Associates, Terry Lawson with Vision Source Tulsa, James Adair with Claude Neon Federal, and Ed Monette with Monette & Associates. Boy, Ed, you're getting some airtime today, yeah. Here at the Rotary Club of Tulsa, we're all about community service, but when in our business, in our jobs, we mean business. So again, please join me in doing business with your fellow Rotarians. I don't see Tim Nall out there. I was going to give him another shout out. Here he is. There's Tim. Tim had to come visit me again. More of my tree fell down. Boy, there's no telling what I owe you right now, but yeah, I'll call you. When I'm not keeping Tim busy, he can do work for you. So in addition to today's sponsors, please join me in thanking our volunteers whose committed service makes our meetings run smoothly week after week. Thank you, volunteers. So one of my favorite parts about our program is when we get to meet some new Rotarians. And we have two new Rotarians we're going to introduce to you today. So Richard Holmes and Kathy, if you want to come up here and introduce our new Rotarians. And John DeBars, you're awesome, dude. We appreciate you introducing our Rotarians to all that they need to know to get going in our club.
Well, I would like for you to know Tom Luckick. Tom grew up in Norman, Oklahoma, and obtained a Bachelor of Science degree from OU and then an MBA from University of Texas in Austin. Tom began his career with Arthur Andersen in Dallas before coming to Tulsa in '76 to begin a 23-year career with City Service Occidental Petroleum. He led the internal audit department there. And in 2000, he began a 15-year commute to Michigan State University in Lansing from Tulsa. So he got lots of airline miles. He was director of internal audit and senior advisor to the president until his retirement in 2015. Tom was also a captain in the U.S. Army Financial Corps Reserves after completing ROTC at OU. Tom has been active in his career, obtaining a CPA and also a certified internal auditor designation. In Tulsa, Tom has served on a number of nonprofit boards, including Tulsa Opera Board, Volunteer Council Board, United Way, Finance Committee, American Heart Association Board, which he chaired in '01-02. He is a member of Leadership Tulsa and received the Paragon Award in '02. At Michigan State, Tom co-founded the Campus Colleagues Program for Multicultural Business Students. He was an advisor to Student Veterans of American program, and he currently serves on the MSU faculty staff and retiree giving advisory cabinet. Tom has established endowments in accounting, music, and swimming, and he was just awarded the Covetous Award for 2017 as an honorary alumni. Tom currently serves on the University of Oklahoma Library Board. He is married to Kathy Luckick, in case you know her. She's a retired teacher with Cascia Hall, and together they set up a library endowment for the humanities and an award of excellence given annually to a library employee. So as you can see, Tom has lived a life of service and giving, and he'll be a wonderful member for our great Rotary Club of Tulsa. So Tom, I give you your pin, wear it proudly, and your four-way test. And I'd like to introduce Tom Luckett to you all.
Fellow Rotarians, I'd like to introduce you to our newest Rotarian, Caroline Wall, who is a returning Rotarian. She had been in the Rotary Club of Tulsa and is now back. She's a district judge in the Tulsa County and Pawnee counties, and currently she's handling the civil division of the Tulsa District Court. Previously, she served in the felony division. And Judge Wall formerly was with King and Associates, and she has her mother here, Carol Ashcraft, and you all remember Dr. Ashcraft, who was also a Rotarian and a diligent attender of Rotary meetings for a long, long time. So we have a family of Rotarians in this group. We have Carolyn was admitted to the bar in 1995 of Oklahoma. Before that, she had been in the Illinois bar and had graduated from Loyola University, getting her Juris Doctorate degree. Before that, she was at Northwestern University, Evanston, Illinois, and but was raised in Tulsa, Addison High School graduate. So we are thrilled to have Judge Wall here. And she has a daughter who's also a teacher in Tulsa, so that rounds out a great group of Carolines and Carols in the family. So I'd like to introduce Carolyn as our newest Rotarian, and please welcome her as I give her the four-way test and her pin.
Kathy and Richard, thank you for sponsoring Caroline and Tom. Caroline and Tom, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We hope you'll jump right in with both feet. We've got a lot going on. You've got a lot of opportunities to get involved, hear some great Rotary stories, and have some fun. So we hope you'll jump in, like I say. Okay, some housekeeping announcements. Medical Supply Network. They're doing the raffle drawing, so buy some tickets, win a car, or win some cash, even better. It's with great sadness that I announce the passing of Rotarian Dick Gable, Rotarian and friend to many. Dick was always a supporter, there to have a kind word for you. His funeral was Monday, I believe. We have condolence cards on the table. Please jot his family a note and keep them in your thoughts and prayers as they go through this. So Adopt a Class. We need to raise $9,000 to help our teachers out at Celia Clinton. We've all heard about the tight budgets, and having a daughter-in-law and a daughter in teaching, I know these teachers spend a lot of their own money just buying just normal supplies for their classroom, and they cannot afford it. So let's dig deep and help Terry raise that $9,000 so we can give gift cards to the teachers at Celia Clinton. They will really appreciate it, I promise you. Rotaract is having a social event coming up on August 30th at Doc's Wine and Food from 5:30 to 8:30, and they want to see us there. They have invited us, and so I hope you can go. Just stop by for a little bit, say hello. They will embrace you. They really want us to get involved with their club, and so reach out to them on August 30th, if you will. I hope you're reading our Rotary newsletter that comes out, usually comes out Tuesday, sometimes Monday. And in there, we've got this Have You Met section where we're introducing you to some Rotarians, which that's my favorite part of that newsletter because there are such great stories to be told in this room. And this week, we highlighted Lane Dolly. And I didn't know Lane real well, but she was in President Reagan's administration. Had no idea. And she's also an author, Michael. And she does research. She's researched her family and written a couple books. Her first book is out. It's titled A Distant Call, The Fateful Choices of Haiti Sheldon. So go by and say hello. Is Lane here today? I don't see her. Maybe she's not here today. She like lives different places and is real active. So get to know Lane. Yearling University again, August 22nd, 5:30 to 7:30 at the 810 building downtown. If you're a yearling or new Rotarian, sign up. It's going to be a great program. It'll be a great way to learn what's going on in our club and how to get involved. So I hope you'll join us there. And then Stephanie Cameron. I was so glad to see Stephanie here today. I was afraid she might not show her face for a while. Stephanie was brave enough to join me on TV Monday morning on the KTUL Good Day Tulsa show. And she did a great job. We had a really neat opportunity presented to us to talk a little bit about Rotary, about our membership and what we're trying to do moving forward. And Stephanie did a great job. She's a great person to have. If you ever have to go on TV, call Stephanie. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Rumor has it we're going to have some more opportunities to do that, so I'm looking forward to that. Okay, committee meeting after Rotary today. Partners in Education is meeting in room 234. They need some volunteers to help them out. So join that committee. It's a great committee to really make an impact on some children's lives. I've been involved in that committee on and off through the years, and I got to tell you, if you're having a kind of a downer day and you go out there, those kids will lift you up, and you'll lift them up too. It's important that we stay involved out there. Okay. We are going to get on with our speaker now, and I'm going to introduce our Rotarian. Yeah, we're a little early, so Michael said he could use all the time, and we want to hear Michael. So, Rotarian of the Day today is Joni Stevenson. So for several years, Joni, along with her father-in-law, managed the day-to-day business of Steve's Sundry Books and Magazines on Harvard Avenue. And Ginger and I have fond memories. We live in the neighborhood behind Steve's Sundries, and during the summer, particularly when the kids were younger, we used to walk down to Steve's Sundry and sit at the lunch counter and have sandwiches and cold Cokes, and just great memories of that. So we're sorry to see them close in 2013, but business times are changing and online shopping and all. But they were in business for 66 years, and they were a real institution here in Tulsa for all that time. So always looking for new and challenging opportunities, Joni became administrative assistant to Tulsa-based Engineers in Action in 2014. And I actually know the engineers that are behind Engineers in Action, and I know they are benefiting from your help. I know that. So she helps, what she does is she helps connect Bolivian and Ecuadorian engineers with indigenous communities to bring potable water, sanitation, irrigation, and other community-based needs to fruition. It's a great, great program. There's got to be a way to connect that with Rotary somehow. Joni's been a member of the Rotary Club of Tulsa for 21 years. She's both a Paul Harris and a Community Foundation Fellow. And a fun fact about Joni is that her and her husband David lived in an 18th century chateau overlooking Lake Geneva in Switzerland while David was doing his postgraduate work. That sounds fun. That was, man, that's cool. So please join me in welcoming to the podium Rotarian of the Day, Joni Stevenson.
Good afternoon, Rotarian and guests. Just one short bit of housekeeping before we move on. go ahead and get your wallets out now, because you will want to purchase Michael's book. Our good friends from our newest independent bookseller, who is going to be opening in downtown Tulsa shortly, Magic City Books, will be happy to relieve you of your credit card, your check, or your cash for $30. So I'm just giving you some forewarning, and they'll sell you his book immediately following Michael's presentation, and then Michael, of course, will be happy to inscribe that for you. So, on with the show. It has been said, reading a Michael Wallis book is like dancing to a romantic ballad. He offers his hand and gently guides you across the dance floor, swaying to the song of the American West. Best-selling author and award-winning reporter, Michael is a historian and biographer of the American West, who also has gained international notoriety as a speaker and voice talent. For those who are not aware, once you hear Michael speak, you will recognize the voice of the sheriff in Pixar's animation Cars, and he was also in Cars 3, which just came out this June. A storyteller who likes nothing better than transporting audiences across time and space, Michael has published 16 books, and today he is speaking to us on his newest baby, which was released in June as well, and the book is titled The Best Land Under Heaven, The Donner Party in the Age of Manifest Destiny. Michael is coming off a highly successful book tour, national book tour, thanks to New York Times, NPR, the Washington Post. He's on all the bestseller lists now. He's into his third printing. Here we are in August. The book was released in June. So you want to make sure that you get your copies today. Think ahead, holidays are coming. Michael and his lovely wife, Suzanne, have made their home in Tulsa since 1982, and Tulsa certainly claims them as their own. Rotarians, sit back, get comfy, and be prepared to be mesmerized. My friend, Michael Wallis.
Just a bit of an update on Steve Sundries. I don't know how many books I signed at Steve's. Thousands and thousands and thousands. It was just an institution. But part of Steve's will live on forever. Thanks to a nonprofit that I was proud to co-found, the Route 66 Alliance, now headed up by the incomparable Ken Busby as executive director. And of course, you know we're in the middle of a campaign to build the Route 66 experience at Avery Plaza, where East meets West on the Arkansas River. And amongst the attractions in that building, all the bells and whistles, the interpretive center, the eateries and so forth, will be the oldest soda fountain in Tulsa, Steve's. So you can take your children and your grandchildren down there and have egg salad on white bread and a cherry Coke, just like you did. I'm glad to be with you. I've been with you all several times, many times, and it's always a pleasure to be here because I know many of you are, like me, fellow lovers of literature and history, the American West, and especially stories that are told bold and true. So what you're about to hear is what I've been preaching all summer across the country to university audiences, to hotel ballrooms and great events and libraries. Due to time, the only thing you won't hear today are my readings, so I'm going to leave that up to you. Although I was a crack shot more than a half-century past while serving as a U.S. Marine infantryman, I no longer have any need nor desire to possess a gun. However, with that said, it's important that today, in this great room, I take up, as I've been doing all summer, an imaginary weapon and shoot squarely in the head the proverbial elephant that's in any room when the Donner Party comes up. Cannibalism. Considered the ultimate abomination, just the mere thought of cannibalism brings up horrific images. Along with incest and bestiality, it's one of the great cultural taboos. And that is why, when people hear the words the Donner Party, cannibalism is predictably the first thing that comes to mind. Ask most people if they've ever heard of the Donner Party, and if they have, believe me, I know, they invariably reply with something like, "Oh, the Donner Party, weren't those the pioneers who got trapped in a blizzard in the mountains and ended up eating each other?" It's true that if not for the acts of survival cannibalism, the Donner Party would have been a mere footnote, one of the many caravans of settlers that crossed over the high Sierras of California. But that was not the case. It is indisputable that members of the snowbound Donner Party, in order to survive, did in fact resort to cannibalism of the dead that dreadful winter of 1846-1847. And as a result, basic human curiosity and the lure of the morbid have always drawn people to the story. I've thought a lot about this, and I think possibly it comes from a yearning to empathize with someone else's suffering, or maybe the enticement of death causes one to feel truly alive. Some may find nourishment in the darkness. Rick Burns, the great documentary filmmaker, put it quite well. The cannibalism becomes like the barker outside the tent. It's what helps you bring people into the story, but you end up telling them a story once inside that's actually quite different from that the barker has led people to believe, which is a story of really a kind of infinite pain and sorrow, and not a story really of immorality or ghoulishness at all, but a story of suffering and stoicism and survival in the face of adversity. It's a story that certainly ended for those who perished in the snowy mountains, but for others, it was but the beginning of a new life. The fact is that survivors, desperate and delirious from starvation and hypothermia, were forced to consume the flesh of the dead out of sheer necessity. But that's part of the story, albeit an important one, but there's so much more. No matter if they lived or died, everyone who was part of that journey were forever guaranteed a place in the annals of American history. Among the more than 300,000 people in the mid-1800s who, in the words of a great old frontier saying, were willing to cross heaven to get to the promised land of California and Oregon, no single wagon train garnered as much attention as the one that ultimately became known as the Donner Party. Their travels and travails are considered the best documented and famous of all the pioneer narratives. Yet, their story has always been snarled in myth, exaggeration, and often outright lies. This book tells the complete story and not just the obvious. This is the story of that band of people with no Moses or Joshua to lead them, and their quest to remake themselves in a new place on the distant edge of the continent. This is the story of missed opportunities and unspeakable horrors, as well as realized dreams and human triumph. It is full of what-ifs, maybes, could-have-beens, and if-onlys. It tells of how they died, but it also, importantly, is the story of who they were and how they lived, and how they came to end up in the predicament that haunted the survivors for the rest of their lives. This story symbolizes both America's westward expansion and the frontier foundation myth. It is the story of the foibles and follies and sheer arrogance of manifest destiny, the widely held belief that God Almighty above came down to the United States and mandated the Eastern Anglo population to embark on a mission to expand, to conquer, to spread the form of government and way of life across the continent. The movement's name came from a catchphrase. John L. O'Sullivan, a New York publisher, coined this rallying cry in an editorial in the July-August 1845 issue of the Democratic Review, when he proclaimed that it was by the right of our manifest destiny to overspread and to possess all of the continent which Providence has given us. This is also a story that has been told and retold as both gospel truth and campfire yarns. And like most good stories, it's changed with each telling. But now it was my turn. And this is a story that begins with the land. It starts on the endless prairie carpet and the rich soil beneath that was the flesh of the earth. In April 1846, a company of expatriates, the early foot soldiers of manifest destiny that came to be commonly known in American history as the Donner-Reed Party, departed Springfield, Illinois, headed for the Mexican province of Alta California. Like so many more to come, they were also inspired to head west by the promise of a richer life offered by America's grand expansionist movement. The America they were leaving behind in 1846 was a nation of some 20 million people, including Indians and others held in bondage as slaves. Plantations and farms still predominated, but the fast pace of growth was transforming the landscape. The surge of cities, the stirring of industry, and the rush of transportation and commerce marked those times. There was no holding America back in 1846. The nation was fixated on extending its borders. It was a watershed year. As the great late historian Bernard DeVoto would later call it, the year of decision. And indeed it was, and not all the decisions proved wise. America was changing from a struggling new nation into the new bully on the block. The sovereign nation of Texas was annexed year before and became a slave state. America wanted more. Present-day California, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, and Utah. So the nation, led by the bellicose and land-hungry President James K. Polk, known in his day to be single-minded and fanatical in the purpose of acquiring the West, went to war with Mexico. Before it ended, the United States lost 2,000 men in action and 12,000 more to disease, but got all that land. Some political leaders, the wise political leaders such as Abraham Lincoln, the new Whig congressman from Illinois, and a friend of members of the Donner Party, believed the content of the country's national character was changed, and for the worse. But some of Lincoln's acquaintances back in Springfield, Illinois, did not share those feelings. As more than 1 million starving refugees from Ireland's potato blights and killing famine came to America, thousands of Americans experienced a different sort of hunger. Theirs was an appetite for land and opportunity. A wave of people, including the band of citizens gathered in Springfield, was eager to become part of what they thought would be a grand adventure. The Donner Party's collective dream, however, morphed into a collective nightmare when, because of poor timing, terrible advice, and even worse weather, only part of those who started the journey reached their final destination. After becoming snowbound in the Sierra Nevada mountains near the border of present-day Nevada and California, the party soon ran out of food and ultimately resorted to feeding off the flesh of their dead companions and family members in order to survive. Again, this aspect of the Donner Party's story makes it grotesquely fascinating and one of the most haunting to come out of the settlement of the West, and why today it still looms large in American folklore. The Donner Party's fate, while chasing both their golden fantasy and America's continental dream, highlighted the ambitiousness, the folly, recklessness, and ruthlessness that was spawned by Manifest Destiny. So in this way then, the Donner Party becomes a metaphor for Manifest Destiny in a microcosm of the United States, which at the time, while busily consuming other nations, Mexico and Indian tribes standing in the way of westward migration, had the potential to consume itself. This Gothic tale, set on the American frontier, draws a real parallel between individuals consuming flesh and the desire of a country to consume the continent. In truth, this party of trail-weary pioneers became victims of their own ambitions. There are many reasons why this story is a tale of tragedy and misfortune, but one explanation that I believe has been mostly ignored is the fact that the members of this ill-fated group lost all notion of their sense of place. Like the multitudes that soon followed their path, the Donner Party believed that the West would soon become the most American part of America. That is to say, the part where those features that distinguish America from Europe come out in the strongest relief. Decades after the drama the Donners played out, British historian Lord James Bryce observed, "The West may be called the most distinctively American part of America because the points in which it differs from the East are the points in which America as a whole differs from Europe." That statement perfectly fits the Donner Party. Yet perhaps I think it's my old pal, the late Wallace Stegner, who said it best. "No place is a place until things that have happened in it are remembered in history, ballads, yarns, legends, or monuments. History was part of the baggage we threw overboard when we launched ourselves in the New World. We threw it away because it recalled old tyrannies, old limitations, galling obligations, and bloody memories. Plunging into the future through a landscape that had not history, we did the country and ourselves some harm along with the good. Personal motives of the immigrants varied. Some planned to build permanent homes or farms, but others hoped to make or enhance their fortunes and return east. A few of the younger single men saw the journey into the unknown as the adventure of a lifetime. The bulk of the Donner Party, however, was comprised of people who left the country of their fathers to dwell in the land they sincerely believed their children were destined to inherit. They were living examples of those who live in the future and make their country as they go along. Often the voices of the Donner Party survivors are not heard because people continue to ignore what those voices actually said. There has always been so much more to this story than those often told and misinterpreted tales of death and cannibalism. Their legend was a long and complex story of how a group of people from varied backgrounds, stratified in age, wealth, education, and ethnicity, headed west following their different dreams. Out of necessity, they were made to unite and battle against the unknown, weather, nature, and finally, life and death. If not for a few wrong turns, the choice of bad directions, and a winter storm the likes of which had never been seen, the Donner Party would have been an unremarkably successful wagon train. But as it happened, it became a lesson of what can happen when everything goes wrong, a cautionary tale of manifest destiny, and an unforgettable calamity. Their story collectively becomes one of courage and cowardice, madness and murder, love and hate, and survival. They found that in pursuing what came to be known as the American dream, sometimes nightmares are the consequence. Thank you, folks. Do I have a few minutes? I talk fast, so I've got a few minutes for one spoonful from this book. And I think this will drive my point home. It's very short. It's the prologue to the book, Donner Lake, about a day many, many years after the Donner Party tragedy. Donner Lake, June 6, 1918. On an unseasonably hot Thursday morning, below the crest of the Sierra Nevadas, just west of Truckee, California, in a valley sculpted by ancient glaciers, a crowd of 3,500 people gathers for a ceremony to unveil a towering granite monument. The 18-ton bronze statue depicts a pioneer family facing the mountains that needed to be crossed before striding boldly into the future. It sits atop a 22-foot-tall pedestal, the same height as those winter snows of 1846, 1847 that came as silently as a serial killer. On this very ground once stood one of the cabins that sheltered some of the trapped immigrants of what came to be commonly called the Donner Reed Party. The day before, many of those in attendance were treated to a trout banquet and rides around nearby Donner Lake in one of 3 steamers. Although it was not stated in newspaper reports, many believe this event will help restore the names and reputations of both those who perished and those who survived that terrible winter siege more than 70 years before. The audience of dignitaries, area residents, reporters, and visitors from afar now waits for the unveiling of the monument dedicated to the pioneers who crossed the plains to settle in California. There is band music provided by the native Sons of the Golden West, followed by speeches from the governors of California and Nevada. Then the onlookers erupt in thunderous applause and cheers when 2 young girls dressed in white pull the drape off the grand bronze statue. Before the monument, standing with the notables, are special guests of honor. 3 old women wearing their Sunday best. Martha, Patty Reed Lewis, and sisters Eliza Donner Houghton and Frances Donner Wilder are survivors. 70 years before, they were little girls fighting to stay alive. Frozen and famished, they huddled together day after day, week after week, for long, hard months while the snow kept coming and almost all hope was gone. They were here when there was no more game, no more oxen or horses to eat. They were here when they and their families devoured mice and chewed on boiled hides and pine cones. Then they ate their pet dogs. Finally, they watched as others cut flesh from the dead and ate members of their families and their friends. Now they are back, representing the 8 remaining survivors from that horrific time. They gaze far beyond the crowd before them. They look out to where lodgepole pine and white fir poke out of the smooth rock outcrops and the granite bedrock exposed by erosion and time. They see the meadows where buttons, spoons, coins, and bits of bone remain deep in the earth. They do not cry. All their tears are gone, used up over the years, while they grew into women and married and had children and then grandchildren. They learned to listen to the ghosts. As the crowd cheers and photographers record the scene, Frances slides her hand into the pocket of her coat. She feels the crackers and bits of peppermint. She has always carried morsels of food since the day she was rescued from this place so many years ago. She squeezes the hard candy tight in her fist, and she smiles. Thank you all. Questions? Well, I think we have time to take a few questions.
How many were in the Donner Party to start, and how many survived?
Here's the way that worked. When the Donner Party left Springfield, there were 2 families, Jacob and George Donner's family and extended family from various wives. Their hired hands, teamsters, and so forth. And then the James Reed family with his wife, children, and his hired hands. They didn't even journal any of that trip, which I'd go into great detail in, crossing the Mississippi to Hannibal and then down Missouri. Their trip began for them in Independence, where everybody gathered up. So when they gathered up, they would join another existing caravan. So the Donner Party didn't exist as the Donner Party till almost at the end of the journey, when through attrition, George Donner was given the title captain of the caravan, something he was not very good at. This really should be called, those, if you read the book, will find it should have been called the Reed Party. Most interesting character, who almost talked his lawyer, who helped him through bankruptcy. Right before he left, they stashed some money away. And this attorney of his, they had fought together, soldiered messmates in the Black Hawk War, along with Stephen Douglas and several other people from Illinois. So this lawyer is pretty shrewd. They tucked this money away, which came in handy because James Reed ended up being a founder of San Jose. The streets of downtown San Jose are named for the Reed children. And he almost had him talked into going with him, but unfortunately this lawyer's wife was pregnant, had a toddler, and although he wanted to go to California for the rest of his life, he never got there. And the day the Donners left, the lawyer's wife, and pregnant, little toddler, waved the Donners goodbye with the crowd, but he went off riding circuit with his law books. He couldn't stand to say goodbye to his friends, which is probably a good thing that he didn't go, because instead of becoming the 16th President of the United States, Mr. Lincoln may have ended up an entree. At the very end, there were about 87 people, and roughly half of them survived. One more. Sure. Research is one of my fortes and also one of my downfalls. It's why you talk to my agent, you talk to my editors, you talk to my wife. That's why my books are always late. But they all become bestsellers, so I get a pass, I guess. The research, of course, is what it's all about. And then hopefully you can string sentences together. But I was everywhere from Yale University to Berkeley, through all traditional archives, Library of Congress, all of that, just know that. And I was out, I was on every inch of that California trail that still exists. I knew it well because I did a book years ago on the Lincoln Highway, and much of the Lincoln Highway is the California Trail, the Donner Path. But for me, the real gold came from the direct descendants of the Donner Party. The same thing happened when I did my biography of David Crockett, the direct descendants of David Crockett. These people are serious as a heart attack. In both cases, you have to have DNA to get into that. And they're very, for the most part, they're very open-minded and direct and don't pull punches. They realize they're the descendants of history. And one man in particular, who in fact gave me a blurb, which is my favorite blurb on the jacket, even better than my old pal Larry McMurtry's, I think, was a man named Bill Springer, a sixth grandson of the Donners who grew up on that country and whose brothers are still farming. There are still farmers in Illinois, in Sangamon County, farming that Donner land, which was the best land under heaven. That's not California, it was the Illinois prairie. And that line comes from a 19th century poem about Illinois. They were so generous with me, especially Mr. Springer, that's where a lot of my nuggets were found. Oh, that's pretty direct. What inspired me to do this? I've become known in publishing circles as the guy who will take on historical figures, episodes, and so forth that are so wrapped up in myth and legend, and as I said, often lies, and peel it back and expose the real story is always the better story. It's true with Pretty Boy, it's true with Billy the Kid, it's true with Crockett, and it's certainly true with the Donners. So the Donners were a logical next book for me to do, and I'm sure that's what I'm going to continue to do. Thank you, folks.
Michael, thank you. You are a treasure. We are so fortunate to have you in town here. We appreciate the fact that you love to research, because it does bring the story alive, and thank you for sharing your time with us today. So Michael has donated his book, David Crockett, The Lion of the West, to Celie Clinton, and he's signed it. So yeah, thank you. Very generous. And again, Michael will be over here with Magic City Books afterwards to autograph his book. Upcoming programs, the good programs just continue. Next week we have Ray Owens from Metropolitan Baptist Church. It's gonna be great. Invite your friends. And then after that, on August 30th, we have Kathy Siebold with Impact Tulsa. Impact Tulsa connects over 300 organizations impacting over 170,000 of our students in the Tulsa area. And there's quite a story there of what they're trying to do, so you'll want to come for that. So again, thank you for attending. Now I encourage you to go out, tell your Rotary story, and don't forget to bring a friend to Rotary.